Tolly, thank you very much for coming to the Rice Pudding Project.
Thank you for having me.
So, your name is Tolly Plested, right?
That's right, yeah.
And you are the head of the UAE MMA team.
Basically, I'm the head trainer for the youth and the senior squad for the amateur UAE national team in MMA.
Okay. And then you're training them to fight in PFL and then UFC. What is it? How it works? Or
No, so we start them as amateurs, so from a grassroots level.
striking.
To the body. For the
Okay.
under 18s, it's to the body in
Yeah.
amateur MMA. So we scout them from the local gyms.
Okay.
And we bring the team together and
Yeah.
we compete in IMAF competitions.
Okay.
IMAF is the International Mixed Martial Arts Federation. It's a worldwide association.
Okay.
And we have the UAE national team.
Cool.
We host the Youth World Championships actually here in the UAE in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
We started to develop over 18s squad also. So
Okay. And it's the same format, 3 rounds, 5 minutes.
yeah, so for the amateurs, for over 18s, it's 3 rounds of 3 minutes.
Okay.
For the youth, under 18s, for different age groups, it goes between the first age group is 1 round of 3 minutes. Youth B is 1 round of 4 minutes. Youth A is 3 rounds of 2 minutes.
Okay. And is it 30 seconds?
1 minute break.
1 minute break.
principle, yeah.
So it's like when you go to jiu-jitsu open mat and then the coach says, all right, now we're sparring, and you got to go full on.
It's pretty full on. If you see some of the youth when they compete, yeah, it's definitely full on.
What's the heaviest they go?
Heavyweight, I think, is 120 for one of the categories.
For the youth?
Yeah,
That's a lot for
yeah. Some of the youth are big boys.
And that's mixed. Is it girls and boys?
Male and female, yeah, both genders. That's right.
All right. How did you start? Because you're from the UK.
Yeah.
So what was your first? Did you start boxing? What was your first martial arts or?
I actually started in karate at 7 years old.
Okay.
I started competing soon afterwards. I was very competitive as a lad and had a lot of energy. And my parents sent me to karate as a way of channeling that energy.
Okay.
And then
Did it work?
Yeah, it did. And then over the years, I went into other various sports as a teenager and at school. The usual stuff, football, rugby, basketball. And then started with amateur boxing around 18, 19 years old. Then really I couldn't get enough. I started kickboxing, then Muay Thai, which led into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling.
So kickboxing and Muay Thai, what's the difference? Is it the elbows that's different between them?
For the style of kickboxing I did, it was Western kickboxing. It was above the waist.
Okay.
Punches and kicks. The concept is kicks from karate.
Yeah.
And the hand strikes from boxing. So that's kickboxing. It's continuous. Muay Thai, you have a lot more tools at your disposal.
Yeah.
Kicking and punching, but also with elbows and knees.
Yeah, because I've seen them
It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, and they just keep on kicking, and it's not even
the kicks are scored high.
Yeah. Okay. All right, and then you started. You're a judo black belt as well, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I just did my first second or third judo class.
How did you find it?
Well, I go around now telling everyone I'm a judo guy. I wish I started it 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Just so that my body was not so rigid.
Yeah, the impact of martial arts, judo, wrestling, it's a lot of impact on your body, especially to start with. Once you get going and you have a good training partner that sort of goes with it.
And nice mats.
It's good fun. Yeah, the mats are important.
Yeah, because we're I'm like, oh coach, can we get I saw that gym and it's nice mats. And he's like, no, that's for wimps. This is the old school way. This is how we used to do it in Brazil. And I'm like, bro, but you're not from Brazil. You're from he's like, yeah, but that's how they do it in Brazil. So we have these mats that are 1 inch.
Yeah.
And I've gone to the other places where it's like a cushion.
Yeah.
I'm like the WWE.
Yeah.
I'll do that all day long. But these other mats, you get thrown and I'm like, yeah, it's
yeah, it takes a bit of getting used to. I think the first sort of skill set I learned when I started wrestling was learning how to fall and getting used to it. And it was the same with judo. You just have to let yourself go with the throw and It just takes time, and you get used to it.
Fucking, I love judo though. Like
The art form's beautiful.
Yeah,
when
it's
you
like
see
a
a nice
dance
fight,
almost.
yeah, very elegant.
Yeah. And you're like, how is that working? And when they do it fast, and then they'll do it in slow motion, it's just insane.
Yeah, the technique.
Yeah. And then so you became a black belt in judo.
Yes, that's right.
And then you went on to jiu-jitsu, or?
No, I started. Most people do it that way. I actually did it the other way around. So, from Muay Thai, started with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling simultaneously, and I competed in MMA first as an amateur. Then we had something called semi-pro in the UK, then pro for around 10 years, and I made a decision to retire to concentrate on coaching.
Okay.
But I still wanted to compete, so I competed.
But you competed for 10 years?
Yeah.
And then you decided?
Yeah, I decided I would compete for fun, as I would run my gym. I started my own gym in Sussex, in my hometown.
Yeah.
I decided to focus, because at the time I was fighting professionally, and it was just very hard to train 2 to 3 times a day and coach. So I made a decision that I would concentrate on coaching.
Yeah.
I'd finish fighting professionally in MMA and just compete for fun in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, in no gi and with the gi. And when I finished that, I took my black belt. I chose then to start competing in judo and set my sights on achieving my judo black belt as well.
Okay. And you did judo in UK as well?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you compete in judo as well, or?
It was the last combat sport I competed in was judo in 2019. I think was my last competition in judo.
Where's because I know you got jiu-jitsu, you got IBJJF and AJP.
Yeah, we have the British Judo Association. It's the main association in the UK.
Okay, and you competed there.
Yeah.
Okay. And how are the rounds in that? Is it the same thing, like one 5-minute round?
Yeah, it's the same concept. Sometimes it was 4 minutes, 5, depending on the competition.
Okay. Because when you, what I realized, I don't know about not the difference, but what I realized when you come up against a judo guy, as I call it, their grip is insane.
Yeah.
Because they're not holding it the same way that you do in jiu-jitsu, and it's more like I don't know how it is.
The grip's the first part of the technique.
Yeah.
So when they grip the gi, you see they have years of training. They know where to hold, and they're setting up the grip for their throws.
Yeah.
So it can be very hard to break that grip or work around it.
Are you allowed tape in judo as well, or no? On your fingers?
In certain competitions, like your fingers and that.
You're allowed, yeah, because I did it, in the class I did it, and the coach was showing us how to break the grip. And the way he broke my grip, it was like he did it 4 or 5 times.
It's different level.
Yeah, and like my fingers would like raw at the end. I was like, I wish I did, because you don't put tape on every single time just for sparring. So like, I wish I put tape on, because my fingers were busted.
Have you ever tried to grab a judo gi instead of a jiu-jitsu gi?
No. He had a judo gi on, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot harder. They're a double weave, so they're thicker, they're harder for you to hold as opposed to BJJ gi.
Because it's also longer, right?
Yeah,
and they're wider and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the sizing's slightly different. The requirements.
Do you? I mean, obviously you know all the names and stuff like that, because it's baffling me. Like I can't even. I don't know. It's like sound. I don't want to be like. It's gonna come across as I'm being rude, but like it sounds like different types of sushi rolls, because it's like ichigari, and I have no idea. And then each one of them is a different.
It's very challenging learning the names in Japanese. The good thing about judo, wherever you go in the world,
it's universal. The names.
Their names are universal.
Yeah.
So Osotogeri in the UK or the States or Japan is the same.
Yeah.
Whereas we might learn a certain technique in BJJ and it's called one thing in Brazil, another thing in the States, and something else.
Yeah, depending on your coach. If it's Brazilian or So it's like, this one's called the samba sweep. I'm like, is it samba sweep? It's like, not really, but I call it a samba sweep. He's like, why? He said, because you're using the hips. I'm like, all right, but then if I go somewhere else, what do they call it? And it's like, this is a flower. This is a flower sweep. I'm like, but is it a flower sweep? He's like, that's what we call it in Brazil. I'm like, okay. And then you go somewhere else and they call it a pendulum sweep or something.
That's right.
Yeah, it's just fair enough. All right, what do you prefer, jiu-jitsu or judo?
I enjoy all martial arts. The only thing really that is the difference that changes the sport for me is the rule sets. A lot of the techniques, obviously, they were both born from traditional jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So it's just the rule sets that separate it for competition.
Okay, but who's winning? Black belt, judo, it's a black belt, jiu-jitsu.
Depends on the athlete, not on the art.
Good answer. Good answer. All right. Did you compete in jiu-jitsu as well?
Yeah.
Where did you compete?
Competed through the UK, English. Competed in the English championships, the British championships. We had the IBJJF London. I competed in.
That was just this weekend as well. There was one of them.
Yeah, I think there was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Haven't followed for a while, and then I competed. That was at brown belt, and then I competed in Europe with the gi in Lisbon for the Europeans.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in Rome also.
That's also
for the no gi.
The Grand Slams.
IBJJF they have there. So they used to have the Europeans in Lisbon with the gi, and then the no gi Europeans were in Rome.
Okay. Would you prefer gi or no gi?
I enjoy the gi, but I have better achievements in no gi.
Is it because of your wrestling background?
I think so. Yeah, it's more dynamic. It's more athletic at times.
All right. So for the newbies out there, can you explain to us what gi is and no gi, what it means?
So when we say gi, it's the uniform that we wear, the kimono that the individual trains in and competes in. No gi is a reference to not wearing the kimono, the uniform. We simply wear shorts and a rash guard. Gotcha.
Cool. There you go. Thank you for that explanation. I find no gi just, I don't want to say it's not for the old men, but it's just like you need to be fit, because there's no like with a gi, and if you're a big guy or you can I can just like hold on to somebody
use the grips
and just
to slow them down.
Yeah, and you can just like but with the no gi, they're slipping out the whole time. Is really
a lot more dynamic. As I've got older, I feel that
it's a young man's game.
Yeah, definitely speed is a good asset to have in a no gi.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. What's your favorite finishing move in jiu-jitsu?
Kimura.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Why?
I think it's just born from the positions I used to like to attack from.
Okay.
And the 2-on-1 grip of the arm.
Yeah.
I seem to be able to find that control in various positions.
Okay.
And it just works really well for me. And it's a technique that worked with the gi, without the gi, also in MMA.
Now, when you said your parents got you into karate, did any of your parents or siblings? Do you have siblings actually?
Yeah.
Did they do karate as well? Were you training with them?
No.
So you're the only kid?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have 2 sisters and a younger brother.
All right.
But no, I was the only one.
And your dad didn't do any martial arts?
No, just played me martial arts movies as a kid growing up.
What was your favorite?
Any of them, any of the era of Jean-Claude Van Damme, Steven Seagal, before that Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris.
A little bit controversial.
Okay.
Because I grew up like in Steven Seagal.
Okay.
He wasn't my favorite, but I watched his movies.
Okay.
And then for various reasons, I moved away from him, like whatever.
Okay.
But then I saw his have you seen his videos where he goes around showing how demonstrations about how his, what they call it, Aikido. So yeah. How believable is it, his stuff? Like, do you really think that it's legit? Because I heard he's just paying people to show to show his moves.
For me, I've trained various martial arts, and I found personally that the martial arts that are full contact, you can go 100% in sparring. They're the ones that are going to work. That work in real life.
Because we have one.
They're pressure tested.
Yeah, so it's funny you say pressure tested, because we have one guy that there's always one person who's watching YouTube or watching the clips, and they come in like, coach, I got to try this different move, and then he'll go there and like you grab him you grab him by the gi, and then he'll like grab your wrist and he'll press it on it like this, and he's like, and then expect you to like fall down and faint or something like that, and like you grab you take his back, you got the hooks in, and he'll like press the point on your heel, and he's like, I saw it on Instagram, it works, they pass out, but people believe this stuff, like they see it and they think it really works, and it's quite funny that I don't know, I think it's quite funny. You must come across it loads in the gym where they come to you like, coach, I saw this new technique on YouTube.
Yeah, we have those conversations weekly with some of the students I train. Yeah, I think it's part and parcel when you're passionate about martial arts, and there's lots of information out there on
Yeah.
the internet now. There's no secret techniques. We all know what works and what doesn't work. It's with the internet, so they're constantly sifting through information, and you get both sides of it. There's some things that wouldn't work in real life, and there's some things that maybe perhaps they do work, but the student's not ready for that technique.
Yeah.
And then you get some real gems on there as well. So it's such a mixed source. You got to know what you're looking for.
Because like kids will come, like, you know, people come to the class and, like, you know, and they're like, can you teach us this? Can you teach us that? And you know my coach, our coach Alex. Like, he's a big mountain of a man.
Yeah.
Supremely honest. And the way he says it, I think it's just, it reminds me of, have you seen The Gentleman? Colin Farrell, when he's in contact, when he's like, he's a very, you know,
coach.
He's
His
coach.
name's Coach,
He's
yeah.
very, very honest and brutal.
Yeah.
And he's like, but he called me a so-and-so. He's like, no, he wasn't referring to you as that, but you are that, aren't you? He's like, yeah, I am. So then it's not really.
remember
It's
the
just,
scene.
you know, so I don't. Yeah.
I remember the scene.
So then the coach, like, people come up to coach and they're like, Coach, can I do this, and this? And, you know, in his accent, he's like, listen, how the fuck you want? Well, beep. So for you, for fat people, deep half guard is your move. And I'm like, what? He says, it works. And like he's like, don't try doing this other stuff. Don't try and do lasso, because let's be honest. He says your legs are short and fat, and it's not gonna work. You're not gonna, like, you realistically, you're not gonna do it. I was like, okay, coach. Like,
he's probably saved you about 5 to 10 years
yeah,
training,
exactly,
telling you that.
Yeah. And honestly, it works. He's like, you're big, collar drag, and get on top of them. And I was like, what? He says, trust me. This is all you. He says, yeah, but I want to try and do this. He says, why are you going to try and do it with these young kids? You can't. And I did it, and I won, and it worked. And I'm like, okay, so see, collar drag, and just put your weight on top of them, and that's what I do. So it's the best. Yeah,
He's right.
It's the best thing. Honesty is the best way. So going back to your childhood, your dad influenced you with the martial arts movies.
Yeah.
All right, because I'm a big movie fan.
Oh, okay.
I love, like, and I watched them all because I used to go to. We used to go down in London with my cousins. So we used to go walk down and get these all the martial arts movies. Like, we started on Jean-Claude Van Damme and everything like that. What was your favorite Van Damme movie?
Oh, it's got to be between Bloodsport and Double Impact, I think.
Double Impact, really? Are you sorry? Double Impact, is that the one with when it's his twin?
Yeah, do
And
you
then
remember in Hong Kong? I think it was based. There was a few. I think Bloodsport come
Lionheart.
first.
No, Lionheart.
You mean AWOL?
AWOL, yeah, Absolutely Without Leave.
Yeah, that was all right.
With
that
the
was
dude
okay.
with the cat, the long hair,
Yeah,
the
that's
white
right.
cat.
The Turkish guy, I think he was in it. Yeah. The end bad guy he had to fight. Yeah, AWOL was all right. Forgot about that one. That was okay. There was so many.
He did loads.
There was so many. Universal Soldier, when that one came out
with
years
Dolph
later.
Lundgren.
Yeah.
Did you see? Was it Cyborg as well?
Cyborg was like his first one,
Yeah.
I think, where he was a real action hero. Yeah, I saw that. Based in the future, and he was on the run or
it was something
trying to
weird,
survive with.
Yeah, but Bloodsport was sick. That was
Yeah.
That was Kickboxer was interesting. Like, you know, it was the
Yeah, I enjoyed Kickboxer actually as well.
with the flying splits.
Yeah,
Of
and
course,
then obviously kicking
Yeah.
bamboo tree.
Yeah, because I loved watching those. Loved obviously the Bruce Lee movies, but I became like, when I got older, I loved Jet Li.
Yeah,
For me, Jet Li was insane. I
remember seeing Jet Li. I think he come out. Was it Lethal Weapon?
Yeah,
One of the sequels. 4. Yeah, Lethal Weapon 4. That's right.
Beat the shit out of
both of them at the same time. Yeah, I was like, okay.
Like, how is he doing that? Because Mel Gibson was the G back then in those.
Yeah.
You know, the ex-Vietnam guy. But then he did Romeo is Bleeding.
Yeah.
That was insane as well. I'm getting all nostalgic now. Okay, so what was your favorite TV show growing up?
TV show?
Yeah. Don't say Emmerdale Farm, please. I disrespect Emmerdale Farm. But
I was made to watch EastEnders with my parents growing up.
Tuesdays and Thursdays. I think I remember there. So what was your rage like when you were growing up? You got what, 80s, 90s? What was the rage then, music-wise, for you? What were you into?
I remember my first year in secondary school, I think one of my friends I was walking to school with played me some like hip-hop, rap, NWA, stuff like that, and I just remember thinking, you know, do your parents know you listen to this? Like, Yeah, that was like the genre
Okay. Fair enough.
growing up.
So you grew up in Sussex.
Yeah.
How was that? What's it like, Sussex, growing up? Was that, I've
It's
never
very
been to Sussex.
quiet.
Yeah.
It's a small coastal town, Eastbourne.
Okay.
It was a nice place to grow up, if I'm honest. Starting secondary school, things started to change for me. That sort of time in my life, my mother and father had separated before that, and it was a big eye-opener. I never had an older brother or sister. Growing up, I was the oldest, so starting secondary school, obviously, there was different forms of like bullying that we were around it and fell victim to a little bit.
You did.
Yeah, slightly.
Okay.
No more so than the most.
Yeah.
We were the youngest
Yeah.
as we started school, so you quickly learnt you had to stick up for yourself, or you'd become a victim.
Okay. All right. How'd you deal with it? Like, did you go to the fight, or did you use teachers?
Yeah, I think for myself and like my friends, through sports, a lot of the time was how we dealt with it. We were on the football team, so you sort of hang out with the cooler kids and your friends. Growing up, I was quite quiet. I wasn't too much at the forefront of it, but again, sometimes it would come to you.
Okay. Yeah.
We'd have like same as most lads growing up, playground,
Yeah.
like, roll arounds and that.
When you were growing up, like, what kind of athletes influenced you when it came to boxing? Or
Some of my earliest memories, I think, with my parents is like waking up to watch Frank Bruno. My parents were big fans. My mum would always we'd have it on television. I remember it was quite late at night, so I'd set my alarm, wake up to watch the boxing. Also, I liked Mike Tyson, so that was yeah. I would wake up to watch those fights. Sportsman-wise, yeah, it was mainly boxers.
Yeah.
At that time.
Is it weird how, like, boxing? I mean, it's the oldest of the martial art, like, call it a martial art of the combat. Is that
Combat
right?
sports,
combat sports, yeah. But in terms of popularity, do you think it's digressed? And people, like, because they talk about the head injuries in boxing, but they don't talk about it in MMA or anything like that. And you can get some brutal kicks and breaks and things like that. So why do you think it's less popular now as it is to?
I remember, obviously, when I grew up, boxing was a big thing in my family, and we used to watch it. And I remember, obviously, it died down a few years ago. It wasn't so much on the television or in people's, it wasn't as popular. But in the last few years, I think it's really made a comeback.
Okay.
Especially the heavyweight divisions in the UK, with having so many British champs. And that, I think it's definitely rebounded the last few years.
Yeah, with Fury and Joshua.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with some of the events they're doing in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really sort of increasing the popularity again.
Okay. Yeah, it's just because, like, I find, like, people are more, like, now, the younger generations want to do MMA more than they want to do boxing.
Boxing, yeah.
Yeah. They'll want to do jiu-jitsu more than they want to do boxing. They'll do kickboxing more because, they're like, oh, but in a street fight, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
No, but how many times are you going to be in a street fight? And are you really going to be looking for a street fight?
I definitely think MMA is a very exciting sport, and it's growing in popularity throughout, with the youngsters, with the youth, but also with the everyday people. They're watching it more as there's more fighters that get notoriety. People are, watching them on television. So it's becoming a lot more mainstream. When I started, it wasn't like that. It was very much underground.
Yeah, that's exactly that. Yeah.
Like we had the conversation before we started. Your experiences of MMA. Mine was similar. It was very much an underground sport for the diehards.
And the guys you saw, like, literally, the guys you went to train with were bouncers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were hard nuts who were there to train, and then you'd go as a newbie, and you would literally, like, just cannon fodder. Like, I went there, I'm like, hey, okay, so I would like to train like this. Okay, well, come and fight me. I'm like, okay. They're like, yeah, just do whatever you would do in a fight. And then you go, and they're advanced. You go to pick them up, and they just guillotine you, and then you wake up, and you're like, what just happened? And you're like, wake up, son, now next. And it was just, they would just trying techniques out on you.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is not not learning anything?
I definitely think it was an eye-opener for a lot of people
Mm.
when their first experience in MMA gyms, where they sort of started to realise what would happen in a real fight,
Yeah.
what martial arts and combat sports work and don't work.
Yeah. So I mean, like my first experience of like jiu-jitsu was actually, like, they called it the boiler room on the Harrow Road,
Okay, yeah.
and it was this tiny.
It's like the Colson Gracie place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you know it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I've heard of it.
but it was a positive experience, and but you go in thinking like, because the guy who took me there was a sound man.
Yeah.
On film, yeah, Simon Hayes.
Yeah, I know
They called-
Simon.
Oh, you know Simon.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's a small world. All right, so we were on set, and people making a lot of noise, and he's obviously the sound guy. And I was a runner, and I had to make sure that nobody makes
Okay.
noise. So then, it's all the lighting and the gaffers, and they're like big, massive dudes, like, tattoos and things like that,
Yeah.
like, oh, Big Dave just came out of prison, this one's in, so like, and I was like 19, 20 years old, and people are making noise, and I'm on the radio, like, who's making noise? I'm like, and I don't want to grass anybody up. So then Simon comes over to me, militant, like angry, like, what? Who's making noise? I'm like, I can't. He's like, you don't want to grass anybody up? I'm like, no. So okay then. So he just waited next to me. We rolled again, and then he heard where the noise was coming, and I looked at him, and he was like, it's from them. He's like, yeah. He said, let's go. So we walked over to the lighting department. It's like 10 people were sitting there, and he says, you guys making noise, like he basically said, you're being disrespectful to me. I'm trying to do my job. I don't mess with your lights. Why'd you mess with my sound? And he was like, if anybody wants to continue, let's go outside, me and Amin. And I was like, me? What? He says, we'll have you all one by. And I was like, huh? Little did I know, Simon's like this fucking legend of jiu-jitsu.
He is.
And he started off like, doing jiu-jitsu in the West. I was like, Simon? He's like, no, man. And then they're like, oh, Simon's like European champion, this champion, that champion.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. So he took me down. I went to the boiler room. I had an amazing experience. But I was a kid, and I was more interested in going out, and and I never continued it, and I wish I had.
Yeah.
And then 20 odd years later, I am, and I'm still in touch with him now, and he's great, and he's like, I don't know, like a 4th or 5th degree black belt now.
The important thing is not. I had a lot of conversations with friends when we started. They wish they had continued, and I always say the same thing. It's not important that you didn't find it earlier. The important thing is you don't quit. You keep going and going.
Yeah.
And keep persevering with it. That's the important thing.
Yeah. Because I told my coach, I was like, if I had started, continued doing then, I'd be a higher belt.
Yeah, we all said the same thing. Similar. I wish I found this as a kid. I wish we had jiu-jitsu when we were younger, but we didn't have it.
That's why I want my son to start now.
Honestly, it's
so
one of the best things, I think, for a child is studying and learning martial arts. I believe all children should learn how to defend themselves correctly. The same way we teach children how to swim in case they ever fall into the sea.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in martial arts for kids.
Yeah.
And what they do here as well in the UAE.
Yeah. They do a
really
lot.
Great. Yeah, the kids in the schools learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They have competitions weekly.
Yeah.
All over the UAE. So, yeah, it's amazing what they do. And to see the kids grow, compete, again, growing confidence. I think it's one of the best things you can do for a child is help them improve their confidence.
My son, I think he's 5.5 now. He does Shotokan karate.
Yeah.
Because my missus is a 5th degree black belt.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's like, and I see it, and I think it's beautiful, like the katas and stuff like that. And I'm like, but if I did a single leg on you, I'd take it.
I think it's great, regardless of what martial art is, that it installs the discipline.
But you have to have a
confidence.
favorite. Come on, Tolly, man. Let's have some. What's the word? Controversy. What's your favorite martial art?
I enjoy MMA. MMA's number one. It is, but it's turning into its own martial arts now with the hybrid techniques from different disciplines. It is arguably becoming its own discipline itself.
When you do MMA, right? What's the most important part to learn first? Because obviously there's grappling, there's the wrestling, there's the punching, strike. Like, what is the, like, to be well-rounded? Like, you have great strikers like back in the day, like Liddell and Couture and all those guys. Like, Couture was a wrestler, Liddell was a wrestler, John Jones is a wrestler, DC's a wrestler. But then you have like the boxers, then you have the strikers. So like, who, like, that Habib is just like.
For me, I think wrestling's probably the best foundation. It's the ability to choose where the fight takes place, either standing or on the ground. So I think wrestling's a great foundation to learn for MMA.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, you're not gonna give me any juicy controversial things, just the MMA. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, so besides, actually, how often do you train? Because you're coaching a lot, so how often
What
do you
now?
train? Yeah.
I try and roll at least 3 times a week, and then gym work 3 times a week as well.
Roll like
Weights and running.
Like full on like open mat kind of stuff, or
Yeah, I wrestle and still grapple
okay.
with the guys. I think it's important to keep myself active. Sometimes still hit some pads when I get a chance.
Okay, so 6 times a week you train. With judo, is there dans to the black belt, or you just black belt and then that's it?
No, there's dans.
There's dans as well. So what are you
in jiu-jitsu? I'm a 3rd degree.
Okay.
And in judo, I'm a 1st dan.
Okay. And what did you do in karate? When did you stop there? Long time ago.
Yeah, I think I got to either green or brown belt before I stopped.
Fair enough. All right. So, along your journey, what have you learned about yourself?
I learned to believe in myself, I think, through martial arts and adversity, that anything's possible if you set your mind to it, believe in yourself and work hard towards it.
What's the best piece of advice you ever had?
Well, that's a good one. I think probably if you find work you enjoy, you'll never work a day in your life. I think that was Mark Twain that said that.
Very cool. Very cool. What haven't you done, because you've done a lot of stuff, that you would like to do?
I'm very fortunate. I trained, competed and travelled around the world. So I've seen a lot of places and been to various countries with combat sports, and for me the UAE was the place that I sort of fell in love with and now call home. I would like to give back with, towards the UAE with my knowledge with martial arts, and help to see it grow here in the industry in MMA, and working with the youth and seeing them progress. For myself, it's very rewarding, and as I said, it's a way of me giving back towards the country.
Now, you moved from being a pro fighter to a coach.
Yeah.
What was the click? Like was it a moment did you get like one too many punches? You're like, fuck, I don't want to do that. This is too, was there a moment that you just said, I'm changing?
Yeah, so it was a few sort of things that my decision was based on. I opened up my first gym where I was coaching from, and one of my students and close friend, Ollie Thompson, had made his debut in the UFC. I think it was in Sydney in Australia. And just at the time, we didn't have the same money that you had in MMA. It wasn't about then. So the financial incentives weren't as high.
Yeah.
And I just got pulled more towards the coaching. Coaching and running the gym was paying my bills, and seeing obviously the contracts for the various promotions from my students. I made a choice that I had to go with the coaching and my business, and that's what really influenced me. Okay. Just picking up more injuries, I had a few cuts that, on the side of my face, and they just started to build up, the injuries, and it didn't make sense to me anymore. For the financial rewards weren't there.
Yeah.
So I made a choice to concentrate on my business and coaching.
Yeah, because I went to a couple of to fights and so on things like that, and I saw the pre-fights before the
prelims. Yeah.
The prelims. I was asking Abudi.
Okay, yeah.
So he took me to. So I was like, oh, this guy. So he's fighting now. He's knocking this guy out, or he's getting knocked out. Well, he's getting like $150,000, and he was like, bro, joke in the prelims? No way. They don't.
Yeah.
They're gonna get like maybe like $15,000-$20,000, something like that.
Yeah, fighters don't
You know,
don't get what people
what you
think.
think,
What
yeah.
they think they'll get. There's the 1% at the top that are making really good money.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it was obviously worse. It's different now.
And he was saying that guy who's getting that money, don't forget he's done a fight camp for minimum 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Which he's not worked, and he's got to pay that X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So that 20 grand is nothing.
Yeah.
So only making money off of sponsors and things like that. Like I think it was Francis Ngannou was saying, "I'm world champion, but I'm broke."
Yeah.
He was in UFC. I don't know the ins and outs, but like it's insane. And then he goes and does a boxing match and he gets 15 million.
Yeah.
And then obviously he deserves it because he's worked and but geez, like it's a lot of people don't understand. They think it's like you said. They think everyone's getting the 1%, but to do just that, it's a bit much.
There's definitely easier ways of making a living.
You always see it in Rocky movies. That moment where he's down, he's out, he wants to give up.
Yeah.
And then Mickey tells him to catch the fucking chicken, and then he's up and he's going and he's running up the steps and things like that. I love Rocky movies. I lived in Philadelphia for 4 years. So, but like I know, just trying to go to a gym in the morning and having is hard. But as a fighter, as a pro, it's a lot more because your body aches and things like that. Those moments when you wake up in the morning, and especially in England where it's cold as shit and it's dark outside and it's what gets you to keep on going to get through the struggle? Because there is a struggle.
Yeah.
And tell me about what that struggle was like and how you managed to push through.
For me, competing, I made a lot of sacrifices in relationships, in the career in the early days with myself coaching and running the gym. But I had a very focused attitude. I was very disciplined when it come towards training.
Yeah.
And that's what sort of pushed me on. I was highly motivated. But at the same time, I'm a firm believer if once that goes, it's no longer time to compete.
Okay.
So for me, I think my tunnel vision of just wanting to be the best I could be was what spurred me on.
What was your record?
My professional record was 9-0.
Wait, you fought 9 times?
As a pro.
And you won every single fight?
Yeah, I never lost.
So it wasn't that you lost and you just... So okay, because that's,
I had 9 sort of amateur and another couple semi-pros, and then I turned pro and I won, I think it was 9-0 as an amateur and 9-0 as a pro as well.
But that's weird because the weird thing is you changed. That's not the time to change. Normally people change when they've lost the fight through adversity. Like, I'm not going to do this. So you kept on winning. So you went out on the top of your like. Okay, all right, interesting. I thought you would have lost a few and then be like, I'm not good enough, and that's it, and become a coach like Fedi Roach, is it? Not that he wasn't good enough, but I know that he became one of the world's greatest coaches in boxing. Yeah, because he had he didn't win the fights, but you won.
Yeah, no, for me, I think it's important. Not all fighters make great coaches, and not all great coaches make fighters. My belief is, as a fighter, you have to be at times very selfish. When you want to stay at home with your family or the wife, you have to pick yourself up and you have to go training. You have to spend a lot of time in the gym training, and it's all about you. Come fight night, and as a coach, it's very selfless. You have to give all your time to your athletes, to your fighters. A lot of weekends spent traveling to different events. Late at night, you'll have a message or a phone call, coach, I still need to cut this much weight, what do I do? And I'll be at home on the sofa watching TV or coach, I'm worried, do you think I'm ready for this event? And I'm like, you're ready. Training's been great. So it's all about the athlete. You have to give your time and advice.
How many athletes do you have at a time?
Competing?
Yeah, like in your team that you're coaching.
So the senior training tends to compromise of around anything between 15 to 20 amateur athletes. With the youth, when we're in training camp, we might have around 50 youth athletes at a time.
So like close to 70 people at a time.
With the youth, we train them separately when it's leading up to competition. So we have around 50.
It's almost like your kids.
Yeah, it's very challenging.
So
it's very rewarding teaching kids. I've trained professional athletes that have competed in UFC, Bellator, KSW, UAE Warriors. But it's not. At times it can be challenging, but it's not as challenging as teaching youngsters to compete.
What's the most challenging thing with youngsters?
Discipline's a big part of it. I'm a very disciplined person, so passing that on, and I have high expectations for my students. So obviously, when they're not met, that can be a point where it can be sort of frustrating. But again, it's trying to motivate the student to believe in themselves and push themselves further than what they think's possible.
Okay. Yeah, because the mindset's changed. I mean, like, generations have changed since we were growing up. You know, there's different distractions, there's different things, different opportunities.
When I first started coaching, for me, it was an extension of my own competitive career. I wanted to win bouts, win fights, train champions. And it was all about that. And then as I grew as a coach, realising the impact it made on people's lives and helped them, it's something that I overlooked in the beginning. But now I find that, again, very motivational for me to help people grow, become a better person through martial arts.
Okay. Now, it's not the same because AI is taking over in different facets and stuff like that, but how do you see this profession evolving?
Mixed martial arts?
Yeah.
I think from the development for the association that IMAF is doing at the moment, where they have the World Championships, they have events for each continent, and seeing the nations support that, put their own national teams together. I see that as just growing bigger and bigger. It's giving the amateur athletes a great platform to learn not only the techniques but everything that comes with MMA and competing in it. And the standards rising because of it. It's presenting itself as the sort of number one structure for MMA. And then even with professional athletes at the highest level in UFC, there's a UFC event now most weekends. I believe that it in the future it'll probably become one of the number one sports if it isn't already.
What was one of the most memorable moments of your professional career, fighting career?
There's a couple of moments in martial arts that really stand out moments. Probably number one was achieving my black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from my instructor, say Marcelo.
Is that because you didn't get a fashada after that one? Did they do that?
Yeah, I didn't get it as a black belt.
No, as a black belt, no, but did they do it for the other belts?
Some of the other belts, yeah. And then making my pro debut in Brighton, and then also going to compete in London. It was a goal of mine. Obviously, we're from a small coastal town, to compete in the capital and that. But yeah, as in regards to standout moments, got to be achieving my BJJ black belt.
Then the pro debut in Brighton, that must have had some butterflies.
Yeah.
How was that?
Yeah, I think it's normal for a fighter to be apprehensive. It goes between nervousness, excitement. But it went well.
Yeah, I mean, you won it. So what advice do you give someone getting into this field, this profession, as wanting to be a pro fighter?
You've got to be willing to push yourself beyond what you think is possible.
Yeah.
You have to believe in yourself and just go for it. If that's what you really want to do, you have to become obsessed with it.
Okay.
And always have a plan B as well for something else, for a career choice. I advise the students under my care, that, you know, they should study still. A lot of, even the slightly older lads in the senior team are at university, so I push them to continue their studies.
Yeah.
But also to, if MMA is one of their goals to compete in it, that they have to be willing to give absolutely everything and make those sacrifices.
Okay. All right. Is there anything you want the viewers to know about you, you know, that we haven't spoken about before, whether it's to where they can train with you, where they can find you, anything?
I'm generally always at the UAE MMA Federation national competitions that are held in Abu Dhabi and Dubai.
Okay.
I'm always sort of behind the scenes, or you might find me cage side. So if anyone wants any advice, wants to catch up, I'm available for a chat.
Are all the fights in cages?
They are for us, yeah, in octagons, yeah.
All in octagons?
Yeah.
It's so, but because I thought it was just a UFC or a Bellator thing. Is that just like universal for?
When we started, when I fought amateur,
Yeah.
we were on, for most of it, on mats.
Yeah.
Then I think I remember a few of our semi-pro bouts were in boxing rings.
Okay.
But generally now, most of them are in cages. They are in the UAE.
Have you seen those? Maybe you watched it. Was it combat karate with the?
Yeah,
what
yeah.
do you
I
think
was
of those
there.
sliding?
I worked the last karate combat that they had here as a judge.
Oh, okay.
It was a really good event. They're coming back
Okay.
later on this year, and I was pleasantly surprised. I wasn't quite sure what it would look like. Obviously, I've seen it on television, but when I actually went to the event, it looked really great.
Okay.
The audience is able to come right to the edge of the pit.
Yeah.
It's very clear to see the action, and it made for exciting fights. So yeah, it's
because they had what was it called, the CJ, the Craig Jones Open or something.
Yeah, CGI is it called?
Something, yeah. It's CGI, yeah. Craig Jones Invitational.
Yeah.
He has that. He's changed it around.
Yeah,
for
it's
the
a pit. Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, because you obviously you can't use the sides, and now with that you can use the walls and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. What advice would you have for someone who's going through bullying?
Oh, I think the first thing is obviously to speak about it to someone close, either a parent or a teacher. Don't suffer in silence.
Yeah.
I think you need to share that, and you can discuss obviously the best form of conquering that. I think always, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a big believer in facing things head on. So for anyone going through bullying, it would be the same advice to stand your ground. Don't let people bully you, and face the threat head on.
So that's good advice. Also, one piece of advice I wanted to get your opinion on was, because you're in combat sports and competitive sports, and a lot of the youth today are trying to find shortcuts.
Yeah.
What advice do you give people trying to get that shortcut, that miracle technique?
Yeah, there isn't any shortcuts in martial arts. It's just sacrifice, perseverance, and hard work. And I explain that to the students that I train with. But I also say to them, it's worth the hard work when you come out the other end of it. Someone that's worked very hard in my career. Yeah. That I'm proud of what I achieved, and also what my students are achieving, and it's born through just sheer hard work and dedication.
Because I see people in the gym, and I've spoken to some people, and everyone's trying to do the easy way out, because who wants to train 3-4 times a day, or 3, whatever it is, to get there? And a lot of them taking supplements, whatever that would be. There's different types of supplements. We don't have to get into it, but they feel that if they take the supplement, it's just about that, and then that's it. They don't understand that A, that's not going to help them, and B, they have to put in the hard work anyway. So especially for kids these days who are experimenting or trying to experiment, because I've heard kids trying to take TRT and things like 16-year-olds, and I think it's insane. But as a professional, what advice would you give someone who's trying to enhance their career and performance?
There's no substitute for hard work in this sport, and consistency. And that's my philosophy on that.
But why is the consistency important for them?
It's with martial arts, it's repetition, repetition, repetition. Just building on the techniques, and the skill set is built through the journey. About daily training, again and again and again, to the point it becomes second nature.
True, but what about the kids who are very talented? Do they need to do repetition all the time?
Yeah. I've worked with various athletes that are very talented but have no work ethic, and it always ends the same way.
Which is?
They don't manage to reach their goals. When you find someone that's naturally talented and has a great work ethic, that's when you find, a special athlete, a special fighter.
Okay, fair enough. Do you find that, because you work with a lot of the youth, like you say, we have like 50 kids in your team, do you find that they're victims of bullying as well? And do they come to you for advice or help?
I think with youngsters all across the world, there is obviously bullying takes place. I think working with the children that we work with, just building that, again, confidence that they have in themselves, it definitely helps them not to sort of fall victim to everyday bullying, and also potentially the people that are the bullies. I think some of them have been picked on themselves, and that's their way of sort of, it has a way of turning people who have been picked on or bullied into bullies themselves. So
hurt people.
Yeah, and I think martial arts is a great way of humbling people and becoming better persons themselves.
Yeah, because I think some people who don't know, there's that stigma where if you're doing martial arts or you're doing like combat sports, then you actually become the bully, but they don't know that it's a way of.
Yeah, I think that's a misconception.
Yeah.
I think for myself, it definitely was a vent for like negative energy and stuff picking up. As a kid, we'd get into like normal school playground fights, but with martial arts, I would find myself getting rid of that energy and just generally being a happy, more positive person. And I've seen that with a lot of guys that I've trained.
Yeah, I see that in jiu-jitsu myself.
Yeah,
it's a game changer.
Yeah, definitely. And I've worked with white collar workers previously, and all different types of people, but I've seen it make them build characters, push through adversity, being able to challenge someone and them coming out the other side. I think it's great for building life skills for everyone.
Talking of fighters,
Okay.
greatest boxer of all time, in your opinion?
Mike Tyson, from my era.
Greatest
As an athlete.
I mean, he's phenomenal. For me, growing up watching him was the best thing ever. Because everyone his line, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face.
Yeah, so true.
Yes, it's true. Until you think you're going to win until something happens. Greatest MMA fighter, whether it's UFC, whatever, of all time.
For me, it was George St. Pierre. Coming up, I thought he was amazing athlete, great champion, and a very inspirational character and a great role model as well.
He's part of Danaher. He trained with Danaher, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Greatest jiu-jitsu
Or
fighter of all time. Gi, of course, not no gi.
For me, I think it has to be Roger Gracie, without a doubt.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tolly, for coming. I've really enjoyed
me.
chatting to you. And we go hang out and
We'll do it again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.